All right. So let's dive in. I mean, everyone's got their eyes glued to the market right now, and it's pretty clear why we're just days away from this April 9th, 2025 deadline. And this massive 104% tariff on Chinese imports is about to kick in. It's
Yeah,
not just like a little tweak, this feels like a potential earthquake that could really shake up the global economy.
It really does. And to try and wrap our heads around what might happen,
Yeah.
especially those unpredictable scenarios, those high impact things, we're going to turn to Nassim Nicholas Taleb's book, The Black Swan.
Yeah.
I think it offers a really powerful way to understand these extreme events,
Yeah.
and the fact that someone like Elon Musk recommends it as essential reading, well, that says something.
Totally. And that's really what we're going to try to do in this deep dive is pull out those core insights from the Black Swan and use them as a lens to look at all this market volatility that we're seeing with this tariff hanging over everyone's heads.
Okay.
We're going to be looking at articles, analyzing the tariff itself, some projections on its impact, and even the chatter around Musk's endorsement of Taleb's ideas.
Sounds good. So let's get right into it then. What's the core of Taleb's argument? What are these Black Swan events that he keeps talking about?
Well, Taleb's saying that the biggest changes in history, they don't come from the everyday stuff, the things you can kind of predict.
right.
It's these rare, completely unforeseen events that have a massive impact. The Black Swans, as he calls them. Think of the 2008 financial crisis. That's a classic example he uses. Very few people saw it coming. No one expected it to be that big or happen that fast. And it totally reshaped the entire global financial system.
Exactly. And for Taleb, these Black Swans, they have a certain profile.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could say first they're outliers. They fall way outside of what we normally expect. Second, they have a huge, almost disproportionate impact. And third, and this is a big one, it's only after they've happened that we try to make sense of them. We come up with stories that make them seem predictable in hindsight.
Which brings us right to now this 104% tariff on Chinese imports. I mean,
Right.
it definitely has that Black Swan feel to it, right? Its size is totally unexpected. And the market reactions have been pretty dramatic. I mean, we've got tech stocks dropping like 5% just this past week, and the S&P 500 is down 18% from that February high.
Right.
Those aren't just, little blips on the radar.
Not at all. And Taleb would probably say the market's underestimating the long-term fallout. We're so focused on the immediate drop. But the real consequences could be far more significant and much longer lasting.
Oh, wow.
There are even some projections floating around suggesting a $100 billion annual economic loss for the U.S. If things keep going the way they are, that's a massive number, even if it's just a projection.
It really puts things into perspective. So let's break down some of those immediate economic and market impacts that we're already seeing.
What's really striking is just how fast and how hard certain sectors are getting hit. Like you mentioned, tech is really taking a blow. Apple, for example, lost a crazy amount from its market cap, like $638 billion in just 3 days.
Wow.
To put that in context, that's basically the entire GDP of a mid-sized European country.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows you the sheer scale of the reaction. And Nike stock, they're down 14% too.
Yeah.
These are major players. So when they struggle, it sends a ripple through the entire market.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the downturn either. We're also seeing this, what they call flight to safety, right? Gold and treasury bonds are rallying as investors look for something stable in all this uncertainty.
Exactly. It's a classic response to market anxiety.
Hmm?
And this is where Taleb's idea of interconnectedness and cascading effects becomes really important. A big shock like this tariff doesn't just happen in isolation.
Right.
It can trigger a whole chain reaction across the global economy.
Yeah.
There's even a prediction going around that we've got like a 60% chance of a global recession by the end of the year. It's a pretty sobering thought.
It is. And when you think about the direct impact on you and me, the average consumer, these potential price hikes could be really scary. I saw an example the other day suggesting that iPhones could jump up to like $2,300.
Wow.
I mean, that really brings it home how this could affect us personally.
Yeah, it does. And if we try to sketch out a potential market outlook for the rest of 2025, based on what Taleb's saying, well, it suggests that those safer assets, like gold and bonds, they might keep performing well.
Yeah.
For tech stocks, well, if this trade war keeps escalating or even just drags on, we could be looking at a pretty long bear market.
Right. Those initial drops we saw might just be the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Which brings us to someone who's really in the thick of things. Elon Musk, the fact
Yeah.
that he's publicly recommended the Black Swan, well, that gives us another angle to think about.
It does. Musk's endorsement really shows that he sees value in Taleb's ideas, especially for navigating these unpredictable situations.
Mhm.
It's also interesting to remember that back in 2017, he was an advisor to the Trump administration, and at least publicly, he was all for free trade.
Right.
So this current situation with these big tariffs, well, it probably presents a whole set of challenges for his companies like Tesla.
Absolutely. I mean, Tesla relies on global supply chains, so they're definitely exposed to these tariffs in a lot of ways. And you can see this playing out online too. There's a lot of discussion among ex-users about Tesla stock volatility. Some people see it as a buying opportunity, thinking it's just a dip, while others are more cautious and see it as a sign of further decline.
That reaction is really interesting. It shows how differently people are interpreting the situation and how much uncertainty there is about the future. Musk's perspective, probably shaped by the Black Swan, likely recognizes just how unpredictable the economy is right now.
And for our listeners, it's important to understand how relevant this is right now. This 104% tariff on Chinese goods that's coming into effect on April 9th, 2025. This is a major event. It's a classic Black Swan that's shaking up the stock market in a big way. So as you're watching all this unfold, the principles from the Black Swan, they offer a really valuable way to understand what's going on, whether you're focused on the overall economy or the tech sector specifically.
Right, and the Black Swan isn't just about identifying these events after the fact. It's about understanding the limits of our predictions. Appreciating that these high-impact, low-probability events, they play a much bigger role in shaping things than we often think.
That's a good point.
Imagine an investor who sees this market dip because of the tariff and thinks, okay, this is temporary, I'm going to buy low. But if Taleb is right and this tariff triggers a bigger Black Swan recession, well, that investor could be in for a much rougher ride than they expected.
And we're already seeing these huge market adjustments. I mean, since April 2nd, $5 trillion has been wiped off global stock markets. That just shows you the scale of what's happening and why it's so crucial to grasp these unpredictable events right now.
Absolutely. So to sum it all up, the key takeaway is this unpredictable high-impact events like this 2025 tariff on Chinese imports can have massive and often underestimated effects on global markets. And Taleb's The Black Swan gives us a really important perspective on why these events are so disruptive and why our usual ways of predicting things often fail us.
Totally. And it's not about, having a crystal ball and being able to see the next black swan coming. I mean, by definition, they're unforeseen. It's about having a way of thinking that helps us understand and maybe even navigate the uncertainty that's always present in the economy, especially during volatile times like what we're going through now.
Exactly. And with that in mind, here's a final thought to leave you with what other seemingly improbable but potentially high-impact events might be lurking out there beyond this trade war. What are some potential black swans that could reshape the global economic landscape in unexpected ways? What are some things you might want to keep in mind as you look ahead?
Some food for thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the black swan. And until next time, keep an eye out for those black swans.
They're out there.